Denise, describe the moment you knew you could no longer remain religious.
I don't think it was one particular moment. Yeah, it was probably a series of events that led up to it. So when I was in secondary school, so upper secondary, maybe about 15 or 16 years old, I kind of stopped going to church because I didn't really see the point in going. I guess my friends around me, also because I was from a Methodist school, they were all quite religious, and they all talked about how, they could feel God in their lives, and, they felt a sense of peace when they were praying and so forth. But I never felt that way. So
Okay.
I was always questioning, is there something wrong with me and the way I'm praying, is it because I lack faith? So there were all these questions leading up to the point where, I really started questioning whether or not there was a God, which was probably about when I was about 15 years old.
Was it something like a dissatisfaction in the church, or was it more to yourself?
I guess it was a mix of different things. So when I went to church, I didn't really connect with, at that point it was still Sunday school, my Sunday school mates, during worship and so forth. I enjoyed the singing. I loved the singing, but that was pretty much it. I didn't really connect to the scripture. I didn't really feel God's presence in my life. So then I started questioning a little bit more, reading a lot more, and I was a bit more open to the possibility that perhaps there might not be a God.
Oh.
So I wouldn't say it's one particular moment, but it was a series of events that led to it. Okay. And what about the faith appeals to you? And how is it different from...
Okay, this one, I felt it was really more spiritual to me rather than kind of a knowledge type, I keep on praying, but I felt that there's still something that is, empty. But when I started to read the prayers of the Baha'i writings, right, I just felt that, I don't know, it was a kind of like, as I said, it's a more spiritual encounter, I guess, because it's just the feeling that I had that this is something that I kind of was looking for.
So something spoke to you.
Something spoke to me. But overall, I think it's because of the message of Baha'u'llah, who is the founder of the Baha'i faith, which really talks about oneness. Talks about oneness. And I find that really has kind of struck me. And I had a lot of questions regarding this kind of, why is it that there are so many faith? And I find in Baha'u'llah's teaching, that explain the oneness in terms of this religious, oneness. Why there are so many religions? That kind of explained in the teachings of Baha'u'llah.
Can you tell me a bit more about this oneness and how it works?
Yeah. So in the Baha'i faith, the belief is that actually all the religion comes from the same source, like Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad. These are all divine messengers, and in the Baha'i faith, we believe that they are all come from the same source, and they come progressively. So if you read the Bible, for example, and you read the Quran, it is the same sweetness that you get.
Oh.
Yeah, that is how you see, because it's all from God. It's all the same. You can see that, this is the same spirit that is I find in the Bible. So if really you have to go, there is an essential commonality among all religion, actually, rather than a difference. What would make you reconsider returning to a faith?
Okay, I suppose if God appears in front of me
Wow.
one day, then I would consider returning. Or if I really find something that resonates with me, I really doubt that I would reconsider returning to Christianity or one of the main monotheistic religions, because somehow that doesn't really appeal to me. Having one holy book or one scripture that you have to follow. That doesn't really appeal to me. I think the Baha'i faith and perhaps Buddhism resonates more with me because it's more like a life philosophy, and you distill the essence of, at least if I'm understanding it correctly,
Yes, yeah.
you distill the essence of, the great spiritual teachers from each time.
Yes.
And you also question and you form your own meaning of faith. I think that probably is closer to me than, say Christianity or, Islam. So I guess it would take quite a bit for me to reconsider, joining a religion again.
In the Baha'i faith, God is actually unknowable. No matter how intelligent you are, you cannot reach that understanding. Whatever you understand about God is only a fickle of your understanding.
Okay, so how do you know that God exists?
So it's just like the sun. The sun doesn't have to come down and to prove that there is a sun. But you know that there is a sun because you feel the warmth.
So is it something that you feel more than something that you know?
I think it's more of that feeling. Our mind is so limited. How can we possibly grasp something that is unlimited? That is really the big question, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it doesn't, you cannot grasp it, then it doesn't exist.
So how do you feel it? Just curious.
The qualities like love, kindness.
But could you understand what love and kindness is without God?
Might be difficult.
For example, somebody showing love and kindness towards you, like, a fellow man.
Whatever we call it, God, energy, divine kind of thing. But I feel that is our purpose.
So it's something that's transcendent.
That's right.
That is not necessarily God per se.
Precisely. So
what about the Baha'i faith do you doubt, and why?
Initially, I doubt actually about whether the teachings that is espoused by Baha'u'llah can be achieved or not. The main principle is on this oneness of humanity. Oneness of humanity. So all the teachings kind of revolved around this thing about oneness. Like, for example, not being prejudiced, because you accept all religion, whatever race. That means all men are made equal. So men, there is equality between men and women. That is part of the Baha'i teachings. The harmony between science and religion. And for me, that is what actually I doubt.
Okay.
In a sense, I doubt, probably it's a lack of faith that I would say, because I don't know whether is it really possible to have this oneness of humanity. You can see also the condition of the world. There's so much fighting, religion against religion. Okay, Denise, why do you think it is considered sensitive to talk about faith in Singapore?
Because it offends people, especially people of certain religions, I guess, who might be more sensitive than other religions. And I think the government is very worried that if you start talking about faith, you might inadvertently offend someone. And they always bring up things like the racial riots, in the 1950s, where people were killed, and how if you start, perhaps talking about faith, you might criticize another religion and therefore offend people. But I guess, as you pointed out earlier, it's not talking about faith that's bad. It's how you bring up the topic, how you talk about it in a sensitive manner, in a civilized manner. If you're talking about it and you're saying a lot of very nasty, unfounded comments about another person's religion, of course it's going to offend people. But if you do so in a constructive manner, I don't see, why you can't. And I think sometimes the government tends to be a little bit too restrictive in a manner, and too cautious and too sensitive about the way in which, religion and faith is talked about.
There is a middle ground. That's what Shah, one of our producers, concluded at the end of this faith series. It is at this middle ground that empathy and compassion can be practiced. Faith is deeply personal and mysterious, but to connect with one another, we must be willing to be vulnerable and get, yes, personal. To talk about faith, one must be able to sit and listen to ideas and concepts that one might not be able to accept, but open enough to entertain that those ideas might just be the truth. We at SG Narratives would like to thank the participants and organizations that helped make this series happen. We would also like to thank you, the audience. While this might be the end of this series, know that the conversation does not end here. Reach out to your family, friends, and communities and continue this work. Find that middle ground. I am One, and this has been SG Narratives.